Well, hello, my baby gorillas. I think we're on. I'm not sure. Let's just check and see this. I've got tons to go through here. Absolutely tons. Can't actually believe how much we've got to do. Oh, we're in. Hello. Let's get the chat. Are we saying something, Dave? That's it. That's it, guys. Hello, hello. And have you missed me? Not half as much as I've missed you. The chat is on, guys. We'll get so much to talk about. And we won't be talking just now about the other thing I had said earlier on that I was going to discuss. This is all going to be about what is happening. Well, I don't even know what to start with what I'd already said was going to happen. And that the Crown Office urged to probe Mr. Murrell committee after committee evidence. Scottish Labour and Conservatives have called for the Crown Office under Lord Advocate James Wolfe, remember, who's maybe an issue there as well, to investigate the SNP Chief Executive, Mr. Murrell here. So this is out of the STV, Scottish Television, almost nearly as good as the Guerilla TV channel. So you have got any names by PA Media, whoever PA Media is. And that's Jeff J. Mitchell via Getty Images. So here we go. Scottish Labour and the Scottish Tories have called for the Crown Office to investigate SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell's evidence to a Holyrood committee. This is what happened yesterday when he was looking at the magpies. These magpies were distracting him. Murrell, who is married to the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has denied lying under oath about a meeting between her and Alex Salmond. So I think Murdo Fraser's referred the situation back to the Crown Office to investigate if Mr. Murrell, because Mr. Murrell would have been under oath to give the correct evidence, and now it's been referred back to the Crown Office to see if there's legal prosecutions against Mr. Murrell to be done. He was recalled to the inquiry after giving contrary evidence, which obviously means that he was given one bit of evidence and then given another bit, during his previous appearance before MSPs, members of the Scottish Parliament, just for those who don't know. He initially told the committee examining the Scottish Government's botched and unlawful investigation or conspiracy investigation of Salmond he was not at home when the former First Minister, Alex Salmond, told Nicola Sturgeon, who was the acting First Minister, about claims he sexually harassed women. Obviously, which has been found innocent of harassing any of these women, who apparently all are connected in some way to Nicola Sturgeon through the civil servants and this cabal. But in a later answer, Murrell revealed he came home all of a sudden while the meeting was taking place on April the 2nd, 2018. Don't forget, Nicola Sturgeon may have to resign because she didn't tell about the first meeting that happened in the Parliament on, I think it was March the 28th, 4 days before. And she didn't give notice, and this is where it was originally discussed. I believe there's a witness to this being discussed at the March meeting, which she forgot, and looks like she lied to Parliament on the back of that. During his second appearance before the committee, Murrell refused to give a yes or no answer when repeatedly asked if he gave a false statement about the meeting. It just gets worse, this. actually gets worse. It's like a Greek tragedy. This for Nicola Sturgeon. It's just going down and down the rabbit hole. In response to committee member Conservative MSP Murdo Fraser, who's been highly confident on this, who warned that lying under oath can result in a jail sentence of up to 5 years. Remember, I said this the other day. Murrell denied he had committed perjury. Instead, he stressed he was not at the meeting and said he did not see Mr. Salmon when he arrived at Nicola Sturgeon and Mr. Murrell's house, the Murrell's house in Glasgow. Murrell added, I wasn't here for any part of the meeting. I hadn't happened to arrive home just as the meeting was finishing, and that's all I can say. It's not complicated. Except it is. I absolutely refute what's been suggested, but I just happened to arrive home at the meeting as the meeting was ending. Asked again, he replied, I wasn't at the meeting, no meeting, nothing to see here. Oh, here we go. Got some. Hello, you old Guerilla. The A2 magpies have got the 8 billion that Nikki, the fish lost. Where did the 8 billion go? Where did she put 8 billion pounds of money coming from the Scottish, the British government? How did you lose, or where did that 8 billion pounds go? I mean, that's quite a sum of money just to disappear. And I think we have to have forensic accounting on the public sector to find out what is actually happening. Now, that's not acceptable. You can't just have £8 billion of taxpayers' money in the middle of a pandemic just absolutely disappearing. Where is that money? They spent £1 million on trying to develop a Scottish stock market, and the £1 million of your taxpayers' money just disappeared for the SNP. Money just seems to disappear with the SNP. Millions, billions apparently now. And hello to you too, buddy. Murrell also asked his claim that it was the Scottish Government matter made during his previous appearance before the inquiry was merely a speculation on Mr. Murrell's part. Asked about his advanced knowledge about the subject of the meeting, Murrell said it was limited to the fact that Alex was popping in, nothing to say here, just pop back, and it could have been about anything. Although the first meeting was held on the 28th of March in the Parliament, and as the former leader, I would take it that Murrell, as the chairman of the SNP, would have had to speak to Alex Salmon, because obviously Alex Salmon is a member of the SNP and Murrell would have been the head of it. She's squirreled it away to fund Indy 2 and to bribe the voters. Oh, is it? Is that what's happened? That's very interesting, isn't it? £8 billion to bribe the voters. What are we all getting, a fiver each? Can't be much out of 8 billion into 5 billion. Even if you say 3 million that would be voting potentially, or whatever it is, just over 3 million. Anyway, let's go. Asked about his advanced knowledge about the subject, Murrell said blah 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 blah. Murrell said it was limited to the fact that Alex was just popping in. Could have had been about anything, didn't know anything about this setup, this orchestration of false sexual allegations against the former First Minister. Didn't know anything about it. It wasn't an unusual event, so he was just popping in for tea, just popping in for tea. And all these sexual allegations come out of nowhere. Nicola is the leader of the party, and what she tells me is really a matter for her. No, you're the leader of the party. She might be the leader of the parliament and the figurehead of the party, but you lead the party as the chairman for the party. Nicola is the leader of the party, and what she tells me is really a matter for her. And maybe the French journalist as well. When it was put to him that he lied about telling the committee under oath he was not aware in advance about the planned meeting, Murrell said, "I wasn't aware that the meeting was for a purpose. Oh, it was just for nothing, just popped in, slice of cake, and nothing to see here. Nothing to see, just popped in, it was out at the time. Yeah, they're having a general chit chat over cake and tea, as they do, and nothing, I knew nothing." Fantastic, great. I just thought he was popping in for a chat, just in for a chat, any matter. It's pretty simple. I think you're trying to suggest things or knowledge that I just don't have as the chairman of the party about these things. Oh, even though some of the complainers were SNP members and potentially had to go through Murrell, as it might have been an internal matter first, I would find it very strange that there was no internal disciplinary matters that would have had to take place against Mr. Salmon in this light, and why he would not be attending, Mr. Murrell would not be attending as the chairman of the party. His account raised questions about the evidence of Sturgeon, Ms. Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister, who stated in her written submission that she suspected Salmon was planning on quitting the SNP, which is why it was not recorded as a government a government meeting. However, as far as I can remember, that Alex hadn't quit at that point, so the fact he may or may not have quit at a later date is not relative then, is it? So it would still be recorded as a government meeting. He quit after the story came out, as far as I can remember. My evidence was reflecting my impression that it's not for me to speculate the basis or the nature of the meeting. That is for the First Minister. However, Murrell said, however, you are the party chairman, so we must be dealing with internal party matters. Following his appearance, committee members accused Mr. Murrell of spin and obfuscation and said it can only strengthen a prosecution case for possible perjury. 5 years in jail, potentially. And don't forget, we've got problems with Mr. Wolf, who's the advocate. He doesn't look unpartisan in his own right there as well. Scottish Conservative Murdo Fraser, and I believe that Jackie Bailey also raised the same points that had already risen about Mr. Wolf. Scottish Conservative Murdo Fraser said Mr. Murrell has given false evidence to Parliament under oath. He gives the impression that he can say whatever he wants with impunity, but in Scotland such actions must surely have consequences. I intend to write to the Crown Office to ask them to investigate this matter. The First Minister lied to Parliament, and her husband shares the same casual disregard about telling the truth. We had to drag him back to give evidence because of his previous contradictions around key aspects of his and his wife's actions in relation to the former First Minister Alex Salmond. Today's evidence session was no better. Mr. Murrell seems incapable of giving a straight answer. His dismal and shifty performance was a masterclass in evasion. What was particularly craven was the attempt to use the female complainers as a human shield to deflect the committee from getting the answers the public deserve, and that is why we want a public inquiry. Scottish Labour's Jackie Baillie said it is extraordinary that Mr. Murrell may have exposed the false statements he previously gave to the committee by admitting the existence of other messages under questioning today. The contempt that Mr. Murrell holds for the committee and its work is palpable, but that will not deter the committee from holding him to account for his actions. I trust that the Crown Office will fully investigate the possibility that Mr. Murrell has made false statements to the committee. Misleading a committee of the Scottish Parliament is tantamount to attempting to mislead the people of Scotland. For that, Mr. Murrell must be held accountable. The SNP spokesman said Peter agreed for a second time despite some committee members having prejudged his evidence already to appear at the committee, and he answered questions honestly while maintaining the anonymity of the women who did not succeed in bringing one of the allegations forward past a predominantly female jury and to convict Alex Salmon of any of these. So the orchestration looks like it's there right from the start. It is nothing short of disgraceful that some members of the committee are so willing to sideline the experiences of the women, which they're still trying to claim that these women are victims after it's gone through the legal process and Alex Salmond has been found not guilty of doing anything inappropriate. So they're still the victims even after going through the judicial process. So they're still trying to kid on that these women are victims because it suits their political narrative, and allegedly, and score pathetic political points. Well, I think the people that are scoring the political points are the people who are backing people who have already not been successful in bringing forward prosecutions against Mr. Salmon for sexual improprieties where he's been found not guilty. You can't say, well, this guy murdered this person unless you get new evidence that would actually convict him. There is nothing that he's an innocent man. Murdo Fraser's trolling tweets which mock the women's efforts to support one another are a disgrace. Somebody touched my knee! Oh no! And don't forget, I said the mass rapes of children by fake asylum seekers was covered up by the SNP. So let's, and that was to children, and they're able to. But some civil servant who's got a knee touched is able to get the former First Minister into court on touching somebody's knee. I mean, honestly. Murdo Fraser's trolling tweets, which mock the women's efforts to support one another, are a disgrace. He should apologise and delete them. Murrell expected before Alex Salmon inquiry. Salmon won't appear before the inquiry committee on Tuesday. Murrell will return before Alex Salmon's inquiry committee. Tories won't vote on misleading claim. Oh. It's all, the walls are coming in. The walls are coming in. There's quite a lot to go through here. Here we go. Let me just go there. So here we go. The Telegraph. So this was written. Let me just see how it went. This was written 8 hours ago. Just shows you how quickly I am trying to keep you abreast of what's happening here. This is big time breaking news. This is the fantastic periodical The Telegraph in the UK. And they have brought forward some stuff here. SNP civil war over salmon. The fish wars are real. Salmon versus sturgeon. Who's going to devour whom? Civil war over Team Salmon or Team Sturgeon. SNP civil war over salmon deepens as Party HQ faces call to suspend Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister's husband, Mr. Murrell. I know it's getting difficult, we should both be called Murrell. Mr. Murrell, because obviously of what I just explained to you there. So there now Salmon deepens as party. So SNP civil war over Salmon deepens as party HQ faces calls to suspend Nicola Sturgeon's husband because of the perjury, and he's bringing the party into disrepute apparently. So it'll get worse and worse and worse. This is getting worse. A prominent SNP activist has called for Nicola Sturgeon's husband to be suspended as the party chief executive over his shifty, evasive Holyrood appearance as civil war over Alex Salmond deepens. Chris McClean, whatever, an Inverclyde councillor and former candidate for the party's deputy leadership, claimed Peter Murrell had brought the SNP into disrepute. Now, this is an internal, as I said, it's a civil war within the SNP. Nobody has brought this on itself other than Nicola Sturgeon, as far as I can see, and trying to destroy Alex Salmond. Now, there was no requirement for her to do that. Alex Salmond may have came back in, but he was outside. He was going to get a job with Johnston's Press. There was no requirement for her to try and destroy him. There was nothing. He wasn't trying to make a move on her. Didn't look like there was anything that was actually happening there. Obviously, they've came from two different factions. She's an intersectional Marxist feminist lesbian allegedly, and obviously Alex seems like he's quite a patriotic type of guy. He's a mildly patriotic Scottish patriot, and they certainly look at things very differently. Claims Peter Murrell has brought the SNP into disrepute. It's going to get into even more disrepute if Murdo Fraser actually gets the Crown Office to bring forward charges against Peter Murrell for perjury. The whole lid might be blown right off this. There's other things and other webs and things that might actually be going, which I'll come on to later on. Opposition MSPs are pushing for Scottish prosecutors to launch an investigation into claims Mr. Murrell lied under oath during the previous appearance at Holyrood inquiry in December. In his follow-up appearance on Monday, he was directly accused of making false statements to the inquiry and warned that those who lied under oath could face up to 5 years in jail. The 56-year-old strongly denies the allegations, and everybody's innocent until they're convicted, so let's not Peter Murrell is an innocent man until he's convicted of anything. The 56-year-old strongly denies the allegations, and the SNP insiders have accused the committee members of indulging in wild conspiracy theories designed to protect Mr. Salmon's reputation. Well, Mr. Salmon's already been found innocent in a court of law, and he's already won a judicial review against the handling of the procedures. So he's won two legal cases against the Scottish Government. It's really the Scottish Government's reputation that's coming into disrepute because of the handling of it by Nicola Sturgeon and her minions. Bro, do you have a Twitter page? Yeah, buddy, it's Twitter page is the Guerilla TV channel. You can go on to Rumble, and we're developing all the other ones as well. Get onto Minds, and I'm on a lot of the things. All the descriptions. If you go into the description underneath the videos, you'll be able to see. You'll be able to see where I'm at on the back of this. I've actually got my Twitter up here, and I'll get there's stuff on Twitter that I'm going to bring up as well. to protect Mr. Salmon's reputation. So these are the people on the committee: Jackie Bailey, Labour; Linda Fambonini, SNP; Mr. Murrell, Mrs. Ms. Sturgeon's husband; Margaret Mitchell, very competent MSP for the Conservatives; Alistair Allen, MSP, not quite sure where he's from; or Stuart McMillan; Murdo Fraser, so that's the Conservatives. Andy Whiteman is now independent, but he used to be Green, so I don't know why Mr. Whiteman became independent. You'll be able to see things about Mr. Whiteman on the Guerilla TV channel. And Mr. Alexander Cole Hamilton, or Nat King Cole, as we like to call him, I think is a Liberal. The illiberal, liberal, undemocratic Democrats. So, two certainly competent individuals, at least two, three. No, I would say there's probably a good few of them that are actually competent individuals. I think a majority there. But I think the majority of these individuals are from the SNP. So I think it's four each. And Mr. Whiteman is an independent. Now he's left or been sacked from the Green Party. I'm not quite sure what happened there. That would be quite interesting to find out. And he's now as an independent, sort of independent leaning with the SNP as well. So in a letter to Kirsty Oswald, an SNP MP and the party's business convener, Mr. McKelney, said that the long-serving Mr. Murrell should be suspended with immediate pending a full investigation. So that would be an internal investigation, not the investigation by Lord Wolf. He added, "It's simply no longer sustainable for our National Executive Committee members to watch on as our party is brought into disrepute. If you do not act on this request, I am formally requesting that at the next agenda of the SNP National Executive Council, the ruling body of the SNP, includes a discussion on this call to suspend the chief executive." Mr. Murrell, well, they're kicking everything else into the dirt as well, so they're kicking this and everything else, trying to cover it up and cover it up and look over here, look over there. Mr. Murrell has accused of changing his story during his appearance in December over whether he was at home during a critical summit between his wife and Mr. Salmond at their matrial home in Glasgow in the 2nd of April 2018. He initially denied being at the house, only to later admit he came home during it, or at the end of it, or sometime in it, or we're not quite sure when he actually came home. He has also been challenged over his denial under oath of the existence of text messages in the Vietnam group to other members, other senior party officials about the Salmond affair, which I think that's more likely to get him found with perjury. If I think the MSPs have got something on him on this, and this will be factual because they won't be able to deny it. And under oath, he's already said there was no other texts, which I think will be found to be a lie. And that's the thing will get him, because they'll have it banged to rights that he will actually have these texts and they'll come from his phone, they'll be checkable. And the MSPs, I think, will have other texts and other WhatsApp group chats or text messages from his phone, and that's what he'll get done on the perjury for. I think that's off the top of my head. Don't forget, I'm not a legal individual. That's not my background. But that's where I would suggest, because if you then got proof that the actual other text messages were used, and he's stated for the record that no other text messages were there. So I think that's what they'll get him on. He also challenged over his denial under oath of the existence of text messages to other senior party officials about the Salmond affair. Meanwhile, MSPs told him directly that they did not believe his claim that Ms. Sturgeon did not tell him of her belief that Mr. Salmond was about to resign from the SNP. Hadn't resigned, was about to, because he was facing sexual misconduct claims that were all thrown out in advance of the April 2018 meeting. Now, with that, so would you tell your husband, who's the leader of the party, of the SNP, that the former party leader, who Mr. Murrell would have to be leading the party in internal discipline as the leader of the SNP, the chairman of the SNP, the First Minister would not have told her husband, obviously they live together, it's not like they might not have seen each other, or unless she was with a French journalist. The, they would have to tell each other because it's a party, internal party issue, as well as a parliamentary party issue. So it's not just one or the other, it'll be both. They would have to be speaking at these meetings. Sturgeon needs to resign. She is corrupt. All of them need to go. Yeah, I don't disagree, mate. I don't disagree. You could probably get rid of 70%. I'm thinking the MSPs just now. I don't think we've got high quality individuals as MSPs just now. Even though I don't personally like Joanna Cherry, and that's obviously for her being very nasty to me and very rude. One thing I hate is rudeness. I still think she's capable. I don't think she's a stupid woman. Her politics are wrong, but I don't. I think she's over an intellect and over standard. I think Nicola Sturgeon's over standard, but unfortunately, it's just the her whole approach to politics and the development of her administration has been embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the country. It's not just that it's not just embarrassing for her. It's embarrassing for the country, and the fact that they don't get me wrong, political conspiracies have been going on since the dawn of time. But the fact that this has been so cack-handedly done and badly done for no obvious political motive to actually destroy your own administration and to just keep going with it. They're so far down the rabbit hole, they'll just keep on digging. If Scotland gets this brand of independence, the future generations will be paid in porridge for 100 years. Yeah, that's correct. That's actually correct. I'm not opposed to independence, by the way, just so everybody knows that if Scotland get independence, but we would have to look to what Singapore and Hong Kong was before the communists took over to actually make a success of an independent Scotland. Having it looking at North Korea and Cuba or Venezuela as our political models is certainly not going to be beneficial. And exactly what you've said, Theresa, that's not going to be the model that would be successful for an independent Scotland. And that seems them hell bent on this neoliberal, racist, Marxist, postmodernist Marxist, Islamo-fascist type of ideology. I mean, it's all over the shop. What the SNP stand for just now. It was probably better under Salmond because he was at least patriotic. I don't think Nicola Sturgeon's patriotic. I don't know. Well, you can let me know what you think, guys, but I don't think she's patriotic. So, Miss Sturgeon did not tell him of her belief that Mr. Salmond was about to resign from the SNP because he was facing sexual misconduct claims in advance of the April 2018 meeting. He also contradicted his wife over whether the meeting was a party or a Scottish Government matter. So I would suggest it was both, because obviously Alex Salmond was a party member which would fall under the auspices of Mr. Murrell, and a party, a governmental issue being the former First Minister, and it happening with civil servants as well as other people, members within the SNP, and who were not civil servants. So I suggest it was both. Um, Murdo Fraser, a Tory committee member, very competent, said his dismal, shifty performance was a masterclass in evasion. Stephen Kerr, at Real Stephen Kerr, Murrell Salmon demonstrated how the SNP had survived in power. The husband of the FM First Minister and the former FM First Minister, Alex Salmond, so the first one was Nicola Sturgeon and Alex Salmond, are facing questions that could lead to persecution. Prosecution, not persecution. Yet, in the news channels, it runs behind the weather forecast. So basically, the media try and bury these stories. For obviously, as I said, Nicola Sturgeon is just a global shill, so that's probably why the media are shilling for her as well. They want to rejoin the 20 unelected commissioners' technocracy. The April 20 in the EU, the April 2018 meeting is crucial as it is when Miss Sturgeon has told Holyrood and the country's top court that she first knew that Mr. Salmon was facing a Scottish Government investigation. However, Mr. Salmon claims she knew sooner because he orchestrated it, allegedly, and the matter was discussed at a meeting when she attended it with his former aide, Mr. Alex Salmon's former aide. So that means that was witnessed. Whoever this guy was, who was the former aide to Alex Salmon, in March 2018. So that's a witness thing. So that he would have to come forward and to corroborate that. So that would then mean it was Alex Salmon and the former aide speaking against Nicola Sturgeon. So two to one there. If Miss Sturgeon is found to have knowingly lied to Holyrood, she would be expected to resign. Could she continue? Potentially, but it would just be a sham. It would be dishonourable and it would be a sham government from then on. It would have no moral legitimacy. She also faced questions over whether she broke the ministerial code, not only for lying but also for bringing forward a prosecution that she was advised not to by Mr. Dunlop QC. So that is again is breaking the ministerial code by not recording details of meetings with Mr. Salmon before the pair spectacularly fell out later in 2018 in her official diary. So she wasn't taking notes of this as well. She should have pushed for independence after Brexit instead of trying to cancel Brexit. Yeah, but she's a global shill, so that her first priority is to the globalist New World Order. It's not to independence. That's what you have to understand, or even to Scotland. Her loyalties lie with the New World Order. Non-stick Nicola, the master of evasion. Non-stick Nicola, the master of evasion. Yeah, well, Teflon First Minister. The First Minister has insisted she stands by her previous statements and is looking forward to refuting the ridiculous allegations about the affair. Wasn't me, don't know what happened, I wasn't there, something else happened. Yeah, oh, look at there. Allies of Mr. Stammen have claimed he was the victim of a conspiracy, which looks completely correct, although Ms. Sturgeon has dismissed this as nonsense. Oh, yeah. Mr. Salmon was due to appear before the inquiry on Tuesday but pulled out after the committee refused to publish his dossier setting out why he believes Ms. Sturgeon broke the ministerial code due to legal concerns. So I've already covered that. If you want to go back and look at some of my other things that I've actually covered, what Alex actually said, and I've read it out. Both he and several committee members hope an agreement for Mr. Salmon to appear over the coming days will be reached, although he is prepared to hold a televised press conference instead. If not, I think you should definitely do that. Ms. Sturgeon said on Monday, in addition to answering all my questions, I will perhaps also get the opportunity to take head on some of these ridiculous suggestions that have been made about this whole situation as we try and dampen all these allegations by covering things up and look over there, we're not giving you the legal details even though it said not to prosecute the case. We've lost in 2 legal battles for the judicial review and also the charges. Look over there, look over there. What's the conspiracy? What's the conspiracy? Mr. Salmon successfully challenged the legality of the Scottish Government probe into 2 sexual misconduct complaints against him in court and was awarded £500,000 in legal costs. Why was he not awarded anything? It's him that's suffering from this misconduct. It's not the bloody lawyers. He should have got something out of it. It's him that's been persecuted. He was then cleared of all 13 assault charges. Somebody touched my knee, sexual assault, at his trial in March following a separate criminal investigation. The rift over Murrell's appearance is the latest to hit the SNP, which until recently had a reputation for iron discipline. Last week, Jojo Cherry by name, Cherry by nature, one of the party's most prominent MPs and Salmon loyalist, was sacked as a front bencher at Westminster. The two, well, one definite lesbian, one alleged lesbian, both lawyers going at it. Powers, they probably got off each other when they were down Bennett's, and they then clash from then on in. She doesn't have the legal right to hold an indie ref to the courts have ruled. Yeah. But what she might have the right is to declare a unilateral declaration of independence. Or if she actually put that to said the SNP won the most seats at maybe the next Westminster election or whenever. But it's going to get worse because if you start denying people's democratic rights, then the situation could get a lot worse. So I understand where the people are coming from the union's point of view as well. Don't think I'm unaware of that as well. Just trying to give you both sides here. Then Neil Hanvey was also sacked as the party's vaccine spokesman in the Commons after he donated to an online crowdfunder to raise funds to sue one of his SNP colleagues and I think MP or MSP, Kirsty Flaxman. So I mean, the word's real, guys. It's not from commentary or anything else. This is hard at it. This Mr. Hanvey and Ms. Cherry, Jojo Cherry, have clashed with the party leadership. Apparently, Jojo Cherry is very popular internally within the party. I don't know why, but apparently she is, with the party leadership over tranny rights. So Jojo, being a lesbian, doesn't want anybody with a penis in female changing spaces because she wants to keep all the ladies to herself. This is where the famous Marxists are coming out with more and more anti-men, this is where this only men can be prosecuted, but women can, and they only bring in like FEMA Marxists to actually bring in these disgusting bigoted rules that they're going to do with Hums are useless. So now the committee's passed dinner room chat can now be criminalised. So if you're sitting around having chat with your family and the Islamo-fascist, the member of the child rapist death cult, Hums are useless, is allowed to chat and allowed to say his disgusting hate speech that comes out of the Quran. But if anybody else challenges that, you could spend up to 7 years in jail. And apparently that's past the committee stages tonight. So, Mr. Hanvey have clashed over the parties. So I would think that anybody who's a tranny from male to female who tried to crack on to me, I would see it sexual assault or rape because I just see it as a gay guy with his penis cut off. So I'm certainly not interested, would never give my consent to having any sexual interactions with somebody who was transgender. And I would see that as sexual assault or rape, depending on what it was. If I did not know that as a heterosexual male, that would cause me a problem. And I want to be laws to protect myself against that situation as well. If the other bisexual and gay men want to go with trannies, I've got no problem with that. I'm a libertarian, and that's fair enough. But I deserve my rights to be protected as well, not just everybody else except me. That's their equality. That's the intersectional equality, which isn't equal at all. One rule for thee, another for me. That's why we need to get rid of the SNP. They're just intersectional, racist, anti-white, racist Marxists. And I mean, and it seems like there's a lot of homosexuals in the party. They never talk about increasing the demographics and or try and get women to do things that are favourable to women to have more children. They don't do any of that. Try and get women to and men to develop stronger relationships so that the man can support the woman if the woman has to take time off to have 3 children. If we're not having at least 3 children, 3 or more children, then we've got a declining population. But because it's full of homosexuals, then they don't really care. I mean, I don't think Joanna Cherry's had any children. She's not surrogated for them else. Near's Nicola Sturgeon, and near's Kezia Dugdale, and I think what do you call her? Ruth Davison's only had 1 child, and I believe she's got a female partner. They would at least have to have 3 each to actually be able to continue with the inclining birth rate. True, you don't want to stick with a chick with a dick. Yes. Uh-huh. And if as a heterosexual male, I'm only interested in biological females. So I don't. That's not for me. And also, how are you going to actually? How are you going to reproduce with trannies? If bisexual and gay men want to do, I don't have a problem with that. That's up to them. But for me to be deceived by somebody who's passable as a woman, as a transgender, without knowing, for me that's sexual assault or rape, or depends obviously on the sexual activity. With me not knowing that it's a gay man with his penis cut off, pretending to be a woman. So that's I have to be protected about that. I have to be, my rights have to be protected. So that'll be changing. I don't have a problem with people transitioning. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a phobia about it. I don't mind gay men and bisexual men going with transgender women to men, men to women. Don't have a problem with that either. But me as a heterosexual man is not into that in the slightest. I'm only interested in women. Even lesbian women, but I would be more interested than trans women to men. Reporting to Mr. McKelney's call on SNP sources said Mr. Salmon's supporters are getting more and more desperate. I think the people are getting more and more desperate as the government, to be honest with you, especially now that they're potentially going to put Mr. Murrell on a perjury charge. They'll do anything to sideline the horrendous experience of women that took ages to come out, that a lot of them weren't even charges worth anything. They weren't like touching somebody's knee to me is not sexual assault. And I don't think there were some of these were even sexual. And I was in the courtroom. Here we go. So we've got the Daily Record. Daily Record calls for Nicola Sturgeon's husband to be suspended. I don't know if we want to go through this again. Nicola Sturgeon's husband should be suspended. Who's wrote this article? By Chris McCall. Sturgeon should be suspended from his job as SNP chief executive following allegations he lied under oath to the Scottish Parliament. This is just another sort of take on what we've already read. I think we'll give that a miss. So, Alex Salmon inquiry, no rights to private communication claims. Oh, let's have a look at this. Torquil Crichton. Alex Salmon inquiry, no rights. When was this written? So this was 8th of February 2021. Inquiry, no rights to private communication claims. SNP officers. Susan Ruddock, who's also part of this conspiracy, the chief operating officer of the SNP, said the distress caused by the release of her private messages amounts to bullying and intimidation. I think it points to the fact that you might have been orchestrating something. A senior SNP party figure has demanded a halt to any publication of private messages sought by Holyrood Alex Salmond inquiry. Well, no, I definitely don't think that should be halted. Susan Ruddock, the SNP chief operating officer, said she was subject of bullying and intimidation, though that she may have actually set up these false sexual allegations to start off with. Is Nicola dealing with any issue other than COVID? No, I don't think so, mate. I don't think so. Patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel, Samuel Johnson. Ha ha. Did you like your own joke? Okay. So, the committee of MSPs wanted to obtain documents detailing communications between Ruddock and the Scottish Government to see if this was a set-up. Civil servants or special advisors as well. Special advisors involved with the civil servants. This was a group manifestation. Between August 2018 and January 2019, they want to see if there were relevant to the inquiry on the botched probe into harassment complaints against Salmon when he was First Minister. In a press statement issued on Monday, Ruddock, who's obviously running scared, they're all running scared now. This is the expansion of the investigations. This is why we need a public investigation rather than a parliamentary investigation. In a press statement issued on Monday, Ruddock stated it would be nothing short of astonishing if, as media reports suggest, the committee intends to discuss or seek production of further messages. She'll be deleting them like man. Messages, they should obviously make sure she can't delete them, despite the clear and obvious breach of my privacy rights, which obviously privacy has to be taken into consideration, but there has to be some way of actually scrutinising whether this was orchestrated, notwithstanding the further distress that would involve. For several months, I have faced repeated breaches of my privacy through the selective. Imagine you were in court and some criminal said, "Oh yeah, this guy searched my house and breaching my privacy." Selective leaking of parts of confidential matters without any context yet no action has been taken against those responsible. The statement was issued by Peter Murrell, chief executive of the SNP, and Nicola Sturgeon's husband was being recalled to the committee and cross-examined on messages he sent related to the probe. Ruddock stated publication and discussion of private messages relating to the police complaint are out with the committee's remit. This is why we need a public inquiry, and offering support to a friend and complainer is not a conspiracy. But why? But surely she shouldn't have been doing that, because it does look like a conspiracy if you're doing that. A friend and a complainer. So there is a direct correlation between the complainer being a friend with people within the party at the highest level. So that obviously reads, that's obviously a quote. So this obviously reads as a quote. So the friend and the complainer was one of the two of the one of the same thing, one of the same thing. The friend and the complainer was on a friendly basis with Ruddock before they made the complaint, and then she's complaining about it is not a conspiracy. Now this isn't just a random person who's made the complaint. They're friends with Ms. Susan Ruddock. It is, however, a complete invasion of my privacy. Yeah, yes, your privacy is more important than the truth here, and has already led to further distress to the other women involved in the complaints who knew you, apparently from your own words, against Mr. Salmond. But there's no conspiracy. Those we turn to for support. Oh, get this, Renee. In my case, this included Peter Murrell, who's now potentially going to done for perjury. She added the bullying and intimidation of complainers. I didn't know they were bullied and intimidated, the complainers. I thought all the names were redacted. The bullying and intimidation of complainers through the use of their private and personal communications, which I believe were not put into the public domain, must end now. The group, no, so they're obviously trying to cover up just now again. Mrs. Ruddock, a group of women who discuss allegations against Mr. Salmond, all together in a group chat. All these women who we knew personally, but it's not a conspiracy, has previously criticised the Crown Office and MSPs after their private messages about the case were released to the Scottish Parliament, where it was cleared of all allegations at the trial last year. MSPs are looking into separate government investigation of allegations made against Salmond. He pursued a judicial review, and it was accepted the internal government probe had been unlawful, tainted by apparent bias. The women said releasing the texts could stick us in to actually being conspiratorial, and have grave consequences to our liberty, because the setting up of people for fake sexual allegations could actually result in us going to jail. So we don't want that. It's an invasion of privacy for future victims of alleged conspiracy to make false sexual allegations, allegedly sexual violence. Touch my knees, sexual violence. You violently touch my knee. Oh, if people feared their private correspondence could be disclosed, and if we had orchestrated it allegedly, is if Sturgeon survives this, our democratic nation is lost. Well, there's already issues in what's happening in America with the globalists. Oh, let's go back to that. What was that? Let's see this. Oh, let's see this picture. There she is there. There she is there. Now, I'm not saying there's a typical sort of lesbianic look, but it looks like it's Nicola Sturgeon's inner circles, all full of people you might meet down at Bennett's, not on a Tuesday night, if you know what I mean. Oh, Paul Hutchins! There's Paul. there he is. He was at the David Irving Holocaust denier event. I don't know if I've told anybody that. I wasn't there. Then he decided to write an article about me not being there, which I thought was very kind of him. Thank you, Paul. Hope you're well. SNP war over claims former leader Alex Salmond was reported to police over alleged physical assault. This is a Sue who may be a habitual liar like AOC. She couldn't lie straight in her bed. This one, there seems to be a sort of ability without consequence to lie in the most disgraceful way to destroy people's lives without any repercussions. And I don't agree with that. I think there should be repercussions. If you're lying about somebody, I think we should get maybe Sue Ruddock on a polygraph test, find out if she's telling the truth or telling a lie. And if she fails, she goes to jail. How about that? How about that for an idea? The party's chief operating officer, Sue Ruddock, said she called the cops over an act of physical aggression. Oh, microaggression. They were all talking about microaggressions in Parliament, wasting more parliamentary time with absolute nonsense about microaggressions. Glaswegians don't do microaggressions. I mean, it's quite insulting that a Glaswegian does a microaggression. SNP in fighting over the treatment of former leader Alex Salmond erupted again last night over claims that he had been reported to the police over an alleged assault. Oh, here, when's this done? So now this is just political subterfuge. So this was Paul writing this at 4:30 in the morning. My goodness, Paul, that's pretty impressive. So this is the 10th. So this was done last night. SNP fighting over treatment of former leader erupted again last night over somebody who's involved in the conspiratory web that is sort of covering this whole palaver, whose friend was one of the complainers, who's now been she's called cops over an act of physical aggression by Mr. Salmond. Oh my goodness, this doesn't sound like more bullshit. SNP fighting over treatment of former leader Alex Salmond erupted again last night over claims he had been reported to police over an alleged assault. Well, it doesn't say that. It says physical aggression. So you're now not allowed. So you're not allowed to touch somebody's knee. You're not allowed to be physically an act of physical aggression, whatever the hell that means. I mean, I have no idea what that actually means. An act of physical aggression. What did he do? Hit you with a 2x4? What did he do that was an act of physical aggression? It was a microaggression. You're wasting time actually discussing that in the Scottish Parliament. Oh, some guy looked at me funny. Oh my God, phone the police, phone the police. Police Chief Operating Officer Sue Ruddock saying she called the cops over an act of physical aggression, but doesn't stipulate what it is. Bit of subterfuge from her involvement in this alleged conspiracy. Aye, Mr. Salmond. But Anne Harvey, an assistant of the Chief Whip for the SNP at Westminster, denies the claims. And Alex Salmond, a lot of people actually denying these things that had actually happened. They were skipped out by the media. If Sturgeon survives this, our democracy, but Anne denied the claims she said related to an incident before the by-election in 2008. Or they're really digging out the bottom of the barrel just now, aren't they? She said, I categorically confirm that there was no physical aggression on the part of Mr. Salmond when he found out a whole bunch of women and some men as well were making false sexual allegations against him. Any contact at all between him and her that day was absolutely inadvertent and in no way deliberate or aggressive. A special Holyrood committee is investigating the SNP's botched handling of sexual misconduct complaints against Salmond on 2018. He was separately charged with sexual offences but acquitted after the trial last year. The former MSP, as SNP Labour's allies believe the government and the SNP figures plotted against them. And that's the young lady there, although it's a bit of a sort of dodgy, not dodgy photo, but sort of blurry photo. Oh, we've got more. Once the issue considered by the committee are messages by the SNP CEO, Peter Murrell, who is married to First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, although they have separate names. Maybe married in name only. The messages sent to Ruddock show him urging police to be pressurised over the salmon case. The committee asked the Crown Office for messages by Ruddock, but obviously she's one to cover up. But after receiving the information, they declined to publish them. Oh, Ruddock said yesterday private communications between myself and Mr. Murrell are in no way relevant to the committee's remit. I am not a government employee and had no role in the complaints procedure of the Scottish Government. However, you may be implicated in the conspiratorial web, though, I would suggest. She added the messages that the committee saw last week confirmed I reported to Police Scotland an act of physical aggression. Oh my God, by Mr. Salmon. How convenient that this comes out at the time that Susan Ruddock is allegedly involved in the conspiracy against Mr. Salmon. It would be nothing short of astonishing if, as media reports suggest, the government intended to discuss or seek production of further messages despite us trying to cover it up and make sure that these don't get brought to light because they might be a bit dodgy and a bit damaging and show a bit or more of the conspiratorial web. Despite the clear and obvious breach of my privacy rights, notwithstanding the further distress that would involve. For several months, I faced repeated breaches of my privacy through the selective leaking of parts of confidential messages without any context, yet no action has been taken against those responsible. Hum's a useless speech bill was the last straw for me, done with my membership, but who are unionists just because they don't like the SNP are just as bad. Yeah, I'm not saying they're not, Neil, but you've got the Scottish Libertarian Party. If you don't want to, if you want to go, I would join the Scottish Libertarian Party. They believe in being out of the UK and out of Europe, and they also believe in free speech, buddy. So I would definitely leave. One of the things I've done here is say that Count Dankula has joined, and he's taken hundreds of thousands, in fact, of members just like yourself, buddy, who have now had enough of the SNP and the Islamo-Marxist, postmodernist, disgusting hate speech bills and all the other crap that they're bringing in. And they've all jumped ship to the Scottish Libertarian Party. So if you want to be true to your independence credentials, I would join the Scottish Libertarian Party. And the only thing is, I don't know if you're a pro EU or not, mate. But if you're pro EU, then that would be one of the issues you would find in the Scottish Libertarian Party. But all the rest would probably suit you better. The Tories do not give a toss about the working man and don't give. Yeah, the Tories are a corporatist, globalist shill party, and that's right. They don't give a toss. Don't get me started on what Labour have become. Yeah, I totally agree, mate. So my advice to you, Neil, is go to the Scottish Libertarian Party. They believe in freedom of speech, so they'll potentially take down. I'm going to set up another party, which is going to be a centrist party. And until that's done, I'll start working on that and hopefully get it up so I can stand at least before the Scottish election. But I would join the Scottish Libertarian Party, buddy, if that's I agree with you and I hold that as well. Don't fancy being governed by any of these people. I would say the Scottish Libertarian Party is a place for you, Neil. And I would suggest that. Obviously, as I said, I don't know. sharpen the spade and keep digging. Great stuff. Oh, and get an umbrella and a new tie. Didn't like my tie. I'm a bit upset you didn't like my tie, Andy. My tie's a cracker. Love my tie. But yeah, I don't mind getting snowed on. It doesn't bother me. I thought I looked quite Christmassy, although we're in February. What? Anyway, let's go. Let's keep going, guys. The record. Where are we? She added bullying, intimidation. I'm intimidated. Some guy said something to me. I just don't like it. Some guy touched my knee. Oh, I'm so entitled. Oh, I don't want to do that. Touching knees and things. For several months, I faced repeated breaches of my privacy, blah, blah, blah. She bullied, intimidation, complainers through the use of private, personal, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Salmon are being ignored, and that the committee has allowed itself to be led. She added the bullying and intimidation of complainers, although their names have been redacted, legally redacted, through the use of private, personal communications must end now. No, I don't think it should. It is incredibly disappointing that complainers who we were conspiring with allegedly personal experiences, where we're going to make up of Mr. Salmon are being ignored. Complainers' personal experience of Mr. Salmon are being ignored, and that this committee has allowed itself to be led by selective quoting, leaks, false allegations, all made in an attempt by Mr. Salmon and those around him to bolster his reputation. As I said, I think it's the Scottish Government's reputation that's at fault just now, isn't it? I am background, she said, I am by background a solicitor admitted in Scotland and remain on the roll of the Law Society of Scotland. Ooh. I have been actively involved with SNP since 1974. Hey, she. It's Miss Ruddock. Harvey wrote, Ms. Ruddock's statement suggests an act of physical aggression by Mr. Salmon. You can basically make up anything now. I knew that it would be wrong since I was the only witness to the supposed event. So Harvey wrote, Miss Ruddock's statement suggests an act of physical aggression by Mr. Salmon. I knew that to be wrong since I was the only witness to the supposed event. So another woman lying without any repercussions. She is referring to an incident in the Glenrothes by-election in which she campaigned together. We were knocking and leafleting a block of flats during an event. During a media event. Alex walked past Sue in the staircase of a close. He brushed past her on the stairwell as she was heading to leave the close. I saw and heard nothing which caused me any alarm or concern. I was just yards away. I can categorically confirm there was no physical aggression on the part of Mr. Salmon. However, it is convenient that this has come up and when there is pointers at Ms. Ruddock. And she said police questioned her extensively about it and no further action was taken against Mr. Salmon, adding that, like anything else, that this is simply not simple but did not happen as described by Sue Ruddock. My goodness. Harvey said, I believe for some time that there was what I described in writing on the August 28th, 2018 as a witch hunt against him and receiving by some witches after receiving what I considered to be an improper request from the SNP headquarters seeking to damage Mr. Salmon. Ruddock denied Harvey's claim last night, and Mr. Salmon clearly agreed he behaved inappropriately as he called repeatedly to apologise. Ms. Harvey was not present at the time of this incident. Ruddock denied Harvey's claim last night. Mr. Salmon clearly agreed to behave. Agreed he behaved inappropriately. Called repeatedly to apologise. Ms. Harvey was not present at the time of this incident. Police Scotland said we received a report, common assault, which was thoroughly investigated. There was insufficient. The Police Scotland was received a report, common assault, which was clearly thoroughly investigated. There was insufficient collaboration evidence to charge. The circumstances were included in a report to the Crown Office and the prosecutor fiscal. Right, I've got more to actually go through here, guys. So I'm going to cut it for till 1 o'clock, and then I'm going to come back at 1 o'clock. I'm that hardcore, so I'm going to take a 15-minute break just to break up this, and I'll come back in at 1 o'clock to continue this. It is not produced Neil. It's not pronounced Neil. Oh, sorry, I signed up, but I don't know if it went through because it said it was wait on the payment, but it's only asked for the account number and sort code. Well, just tell me what you want to get called, buddy, and that's it. Right, guys, back at 1 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to continue this. Love you guys. Love my.